Hi, I'm Maggie. Thank you for stopping by Crafts the Charm today. You are most welcome here. It's summer and we're coming up on the 4th of July, which is why I'm wearing red, white, and blue. And the Dollar Tree has these garden stakes in the shape of stars. And I like them, but they're a little bright for the decor that I would like to make with them. So I'm going to take these and a few other items from the Dollar Tree and make some wall decor for outside. Let's go have some fun. So this is a survey of the materials we have to work with, and we'll look at each piece individually. This is some blue fabric. I couldn't find any blue ribbon in a color that I liked, but I liked that fabric. This is some ribbon that I had gotten around Christmas. This is foam scatter, and that's nautical rope in the thicker form, and these are garden stakes, which are stars. So some of this stuff is in the 4th of July area. Now the base for this outdoor wall decor is these old pallet boards that I have, and I sanded them down with a mouse sander with 60 grit sandpaper, and I sanded down 6 of them, and I ended up using only 4 of them for this wall decor. Now that foam scatter, those are covered with glitter, so we are going to have to cover those with Mod Podge in order to contain the glitter. So even though we're going to do our best, this is going to be a little bit messy. So just prepare to have to clean up some glitter on whatever surface you use, and then just cover them with Mod Podge both sides. Now Dollar Tree does sell galvanized tin stars and they sell wood stars, but I liked these garden stake stars because they have a little bit of dimension to them. So my hope was that I would be able to easily remove the stake part from them. And you can see that it's attached to that red sort of arrow at the bottom, and it's attached with some sort of adhesive. So I had a very easy time removing one of these. And I had a little bit more difficulty removing the second one. There was just more adhesive, but I was able to get both of them off by pulling down those little tabs and then either using the pliers or using my hands to pry it off. Now because I want a galvanized tin look, I'm using this 60 grit sandpaper, which is meant for metal, but I'm sure any sandpaper will do. And I just sanded these stars so that they would have a rough surface so that I could paint them. And I think they look better sanded. So I just wiped off any extra paint or dust from them, and I just used a damp paper towel, and then we're going to paint them. Now for this technique, we want the galvanized steel or galvanized tin look. What we're going to do is we're going to start with a base coat of gray. And I don't think I have any gray paint. I just used a mixture of white and black until I got a color that I thought was going to work. So this is just a mix of black and white acrylic paint. This happens to be apple barrel paint. And once you have the color that you like, you're just going to paint it over all of the stars. So I painted both sides of the little stars, and that got a little messy. And I just painted the fronts of the 2 metal stars. So once you have them painted gray, let that dry. And then once it has dried, you're going to use a kitchen sponge because it's, got a texture, sort of porous. And you're going to dab on a metallic silver paint. I had a couple of metallic silver paints. The one I ended up using is called pewter. And dab that on, then you dab black on, and then you dab the metallic silver paint on again over that. And you can do that while it's wet. Now once they've dried, this is what they look like. And if you are going to use this outdoors, or just if you want to seal it, if you're concerned about it scratching off, then I would spray a spray sealer over that. I used this matte clear sealer. Then I turned to the bunting. So I want to have a little bit of bunting at the bottom. And I had this other piece of sort of a denim colored blue fabric from another project, and that is also from the Dollar Tree originally. That's about 5 inches. So what I decided to do was cut some strips of the blue and put those together. So I'm going to sew them together. I'm going to cut strips that are 5 inches wide, and the length of these is 18 because these fabrics from the Dollar Tree are 18 by 21. So the 18 inches was perfect for me to sew it together in the middle so that I get a 36-inch long strip, because that happens to be the size of my pallet boards. And the pallet boards are going to be the base for this whole wall art piece. So I'm going to cut 2 5-inch strips of this fabric and then 2 5-inch strips of the denim fabric and sew them together so I get a 10-inch by 36-inch strip. And the way I put this on the boards, there's a little bit of overhang, and I wish there had been more overhang. I ended up adding more. So I would say if your boards are about, I'll guess that mine are about 28 inches. If your boards are about 28 inches, you might want a 10-inch overhang on either side, so 48 inches long. So I should have sewed one more piece to this and made it longer. But what I did was I cut those 5-inch pieces, and then I just sewed the dark blue to the denim blue so that they were sewn together lengthwise, and then I just sewed a seam down the middle so that I had one long piece, again 10 inches by 36 inches. Now once I have that 10-inch by 36-inch piece, I folded it because I want this to be a bunting. So I'm basically folding it accordion style. This is a floral wire from the Dollar Tree. And the Dollar Tree floral wire, I have some here, is 26 gauge, which is very thin. I was a little worried about how thin it was, and what I first tried to do did not work. So I thought at first that maybe I could connect the boards together just by wrapping this wire around them, and that didn't work. So what I ended up doing was turning the boards over and stapling a heavier duty wire to them. Now my staples for some reason sometimes wouldn't go all the way through the wood. Like I think the wood was maybe just a little too hard, because for some pieces of wood it did go through consistently and for others it didn't. But I just wrapped the wire around 2 staples on each piece of wood, and I did it in the middle and on either side. And my idea for this is something that is suggestive of a flag with stripes. So the pieces of pallet wood separated by rope to give a suggestion of a flag, but I didn't want it to be too obviously a flag. Now I left 2 inches between each of the boards, and what I want to do is put 2 pieces of the nautical rope. So this thicker nautical rope, it comes in 6 foot 8 inch lengths, so I needed 2 sets of the rope because I have 3 places between the boards where I'm going to be putting rope, so I needed 6 pieces of rope. And I didn't think that the rope was going to work very well if it weren't stiffer. So what I decided to use was bamboo skewers, and I taped these to the rope, and then I used a technique called whipping to wrap string around the tape. This is that just cotton from the Dollar Tree that I'm going to wrap around the tape just to hide the tape. But the tape is holding the skewer, and I taped it in 5 places, so each end, the middle, and then between the middle and each end. And I used the whipping technique, which
I've done before when I did some candles and when I did some pillows, so I'll link to those videos if you want a little bit more detail about how to do the whipping technique. It's what it is intended to do is tie off the end of a rope so that it doesn't fray, but here I'm really just using it decoratively to cover the tape so that it isn't so noticeable that we've taped a bamboo skewer to the back of the rope. What we're going to do is then just slide those under the wire so that they're on the front of our piece and attach them to the wire. So with 2 of those completed, here's what they look like, and they are pretty reasonably stiff. And I was thinking of putting them in the middle so that you could watch me work on them, but then I realized that my pieces of wood aren't all the same length, and I had cut these pieces of rope to match the longer pieces of wood, which are going to be the top of this piece. So I did find a use for that lighter weight Dollar Tree floral wire, so I'm going to use that to attach the bamboo skewers to the wire that's running along the back of this piece. Now, you could also go right around the rope. I didn't think that was necessary since the skewers are attached to the rope. And I did this in a sort of X so that it wouldn't be able to slide back and forth. Now here is all of them done and attached. And so we can flip that over and see what it looks like from the front, trying to be careful of my mat because there are pieces of wire on the back there. And what we're going to do now is put our stars. Here are all my stars. They've been sealed. And I wanted a sort of a random sort of scattering. So that's what I did. I pretty much left them where I placed them when I took them out of the box. I thought they looked okay. Now what I recommend for attaching these would be to use E6000. And you would want that to sit for 24 hours. Or you could use a combination of E6000 and hot glue. The hot glue should hold it in place temporarily while the E6000 takes time to cure. Hot glue is not going to work in the summer. If you live any place warm, it's eventually going to melt and your stars are going to fall off. I am not using the E6000 right now. I'm using just the hot glue because I want to see if I like the way it looks. I was concerned about these stars not having enough contrast against the wood. I did consider actually painting the wood. I was thinking about maybe a sort of a reddish brown wash or staining the wood. I considered white. I'm not sure. Maybe if you make this, you would like to do something different with your wood. I really love wood. I love the way it looks just naturally. So another thing I was considering was maybe putting something behind each of the stars, like a star-shaped white piece of foam, maybe, like craft foam, or another color behind each of the stars to make them stand out against the wood. So, I mean, there's still a chance I might make a change like that. Right now, again, I'm just gluing them down to get a sense of how it's going to look and to see if I like it. Okay, with those all glued down, we turn to the bunting. So I decided to find the center of the bottom board, and I'm going to wrap the ribbon around the center of the bunting and glue that to the board. Again, that glue is probably not going to stick if all you use is hot glue. And I had considered the staples again, but again, for now, I just hot glued it because I want to see if I like the way it looks. And once I know I like the way it looks, I can always go back and do something a little bit more permanent. So I'm going to wrap the ribbon around, and when I cut this ribbon, because it is a wired ribbon, I cut the wires with wire cutters and then I cut the fabric part with my fabric scissors so I don't damage my scissors. So wrap it around the middle and then attach it to the middle bottom of the bottom board, and then I'm going to just fold over the edge of the bunting and glue that along the board as well. So we want the top of the bunting taut, and then I'm going to do the same thing at the ends, where I'm going to cut a little bit of the ribbon and wrap it around the ends and attach it to the board. Then I'm going to make a bow, and it turns out I'm going to use the rest of my ribbon. I probably would have put more ribbon on this in other places if I had had it, but that was the only ribbon that I had, so I did use it up on this. But to make the bow, what I ended up doing was figuring out how much of a tail I was going to have left over, and then this is how I learned to make a bow when I was a little girl and my mother would be wrapping presents at Christmas time. I just wrapped loops, and I wrapped it so that I would have 3 loops on each side. Then I took a piece of wire and tied it around the middle, and then I sort of fluffed it. So you pull the loops out. It's easy with a wired ribbon because it sort of goes where you want. Pull the loops out so that I get a nice bow shape. It's sort of circular when you pull one out to the top, one out to the bottom. You can also do one, a separate one across the middle. I didn't do that. I just wrapped around the middle and made that my other tail and pulled the tail out from the inside. And then I glued that. Now I had a little blue fabric left over, so I added that to the bunting because I felt it wasn't long enough. And you could sew that on, or pin it on, or glue it on. And then on the back, I just added one more piece of the florist's wire, the stronger florist wire, I think it's 19 gauge, to hang it up. I have a screw in the wall out on my porch that I like to hang something on, either a decor piece like this or sometimes a wreath. So I just strung that through the staples that were in the back on the top piece of wood. And here's how it looks on my porch. I actually did move that wire down a little bit after I took this picture because I felt it was a little too visible. I don't know, I think I would have liked to put a ribbon up at the top, but again, I ran out of ribbon. But if I can find more of that ribbon, I might put more at the top. I did buy that at Christmas time, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it.
So what did you think of our outdoor decor project? I really had a lot of fun making it. I like painting, and I really liked that galvanized steel or galvanized tin effect. I thought it came out really well. If you can think of other things that we could paint with that effect, please tell me in the comments, or if you made this project, or especially if you made a variation of the project, I would love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you like this sort of content, please consider subscribing to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.